Welcome back to the summer. We're in Las Vegas with
Special guest.
a special Fat 48 Dinos Triginos.
Nice to be here.
Dinos, is that how you really pronounce your name?
Yes,
Dinos Triginos. Where you born at, Dinos?
I was born in Long Beach, California. Same hospital as Snoop Dogg.
Hey, look your W's up. West Coast.
Here it is. Snoop never attended
I actually used to play pickup ball Snoop on outdoor 8-foot courts at a Long Beach Elementary. We're going way back in the 80s here.
Really?
One of the high school teammates stole some of the old rims out of the high school storage and we put the breakaway rims up on the outdoor courts.
Who was behind that?
I forgot. Hopefully the statute of limitations run out.
I think so. 8-foot wings. Y'all was out there climbing.
We were out there.
That's funny.
Now, has Snoop ever came by your Pangos camp?
No. He was one of my high school teammates' brother. Was rapping under his label for a while, but they're kind of all in that same little circle. Actually, who was it called? The twins? The two twins that were
Yin Yang twins?
no, remember Warren G, the twins?
Oh, the twins.
Twins.
Regulated.
Yeah, the twins. Their mother were a ground supervisor in my junior high school. So I've known them for a long time.
Yeah.
So Dinos, tell us, when you get started? When you get started, first of all, obviously you had the Pangos All-American Camp, you have the Fab 48, which is world basically known across the country. But what brought you to this moment right here? Where did you start out doing? What got you?
Well, I actually played high school, and then when I was in high school, I had a couple of guys on my team. There were Division I players, one of which played at Northwestern out of Long Beach Wilson High School. I used to drive him up to, he didn't have a ride to this, at that time, the Slam and Jam where he used to go off in the spring. And I used to drive him up to the games over there, so that's where I kind of first started seeing some guys. And also during the high school season, John Williams was a grade ahead of me. Saw him play in high school. Stevie Thompson was a year or two behind. Don McLean, I think it was like 2 or 3 years. So when I was high school and then also at college, I was doing my undergraduate at Long Beach State, was able to see a lot of those Tracy Murray's, Don McLean's,
UCLA guy.
Derek Martin, guys like that. And when I went to law school at Temple, I caught some games there. I caught Rasheed Wallace in high school, who was about 6'8" and about 120 pounds. Maybe the most skinniest 6'8" guy I'd ever seen in high school back then. So kind of started there. When I got back out of school, my younger brothers played, and I started. It was starting to be a little bit more active. Before you had the league back then, but then you had a couple tournaments. And then then around about 1993, I think it was the same time that Sonny had to split with Nike. And then you started having more competing circuits, which kind of enlarged the terrain a little bit. And started coaching my brother in an unsigned senior league at Slam and Jam. And the next fall, the NCAA had opened the fall to live viewing. At that time, you didn't have to, my memory doesn't fail me, it was live. I don't think you even had to be certified.
No, you did. You remember when the coach?
It was just that they could come out.
Yeah, you remember they used to stand up on the walls, and after the end of the game, you can go shake their hands.
No, that happened before, but I'm saying the actual event, you didn't have to get permission.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
From the office, even back then.
Right. Yeah.
For them to come. That came first. The other, step by step, came later. But that was my first term, 93. Long Beach City College. Paul Pierce was a high school sophomore.
How good was Paul Pierce?
Paul was good as a sophomore, but actually, to be quite honest with you, I thought at that time, Tayshaun Prince had an older brother who was about similar size-wise, who I thought was better or as good. A guy named Tommy Prince, who went to Arizona State and transferred to Pepperdine. Tommy played also at Dominguez. Those two guys, as juniors, were the two best juniors. Obviously, Paul kind of was able to go a lot further. But Paul, as a high school sophomore, was kind of chubby. He didn't have, he's not like getting to retirement now. But you know, sophomore to junior year, he started streamlining, becoming more athletic, and actually saw him play as a high school junior in a high school playoff game against the guy who played with maybe the best NFL tight end of all time, Tony Gonzalez, a year ahead. And Tony was a hell of a basketball player, as you guys know. And that was a battle between a guy, senior Tony Gonzalez, and a junior, Paul Pierce, that playoff game. That was a hell of a battle.
Was that just regular season? Were they like
That was supposed to play playoff game.
playoffs? Where they play their playoffs at back then?
Well, we had different divisions based upon enrollment. I think they had those two schools were different demographically. Tony lived in Seal Beach, went to high school at Huntington Beach. Paul obviously went to Inglewood, and then Dino Tanner, who played at Oregon State, was also on that team. A couple other guys named Sam Turks. And you know who else may have been on that team? Might have been Billy Preston's dad.
Really?
Who was a year or 2 years older than, I might be wrong, than Dino. But Dino Tanner is Billy's uncle on that team. Gotcha.
So where did that evolve to from when you left?
Well, I started doing tournaments back then. A couple leagues. I got in with the Dominguez people. They were kind of like my anchor team. And I was doing mostly fall, non-live events at that point, with the exception of the fall period, because the live period was dominated by then out here by John Farrell, who did the Nike thing, and that was one of the original ones that started the old North and South Gym in Juno Beach. And that was called for a long time Nike National Championships or something like that. And that guy was a guy who originally started as a high school coach here in Vegas, semi-retired and went to Torrey Pines in San Diego to kind of transition to retirement. And when he moved there, he kept the summer tournament, and then he started a holiday tournament, still goes on with the Torrey Pines. That's why, if you remember, they used to get 20 years ago, Brooklyn used to go out there in San Diego. St. Anthony used to go out there.
Yeah,
Torrey Pines was a guy John Farrell created. And his son, Izzy had his slamming jam, and then Rich Goldberg, the ERC, he had tournaments as well. And then you had a scenario where Nike camp was going on, actually ABCD camp was going on, and then when they had the split, Nike kept doing their version of the camp, and they hired Bob Gibbons to be the talent picker.
Bob Gibbons is
And they did it, and they actually did it, they spent a fortune renting the Hoosier Dome back then. They had 3 courts in the middle of the Hoosier Dome. That was a little before me. And then I think Sonny had the camp with Converse one year in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And then he started going with Teaneck with the Adidas and with the Farley Dickinson that's out. But the normal stop was Teaneck and Indy. And in a couple of years there in the late 90s, George Raveling asked me to coach at the camp, Nike camp. And then that's when they moved it to the, I think it's called the NIFS, National Institute for Fitness. It's on the campus, IUPUI. It's basically indoor health fitness facility, kind of like a 24-hour fitness with steroids. But it was huge, and they had an indoor track there. And the track was so huge, they used to put all their weights and stuff in the middle of the track. So when Nike came in, they moved the weights to like the far end, and they had enough room to lay down 3 courts, 2 parallel and 1 perpendicular with the coaches on the perimeter. And so they got the Hoosier Dome floor. They bring in the market at that time. Conseco wasn't, or Bankers Life they call it now, wasn't built. What was the former arena called? For the Pacers. Market Square Arena. Market Square, they bring their floor in. And then they'd have to get a 3rd floor. They went down and got Cincinnati's floor. So, that was back when they had the academic portion of it, where they'd come in for the first 3 days and do academics and life skills, and then they'd play, and the coach would come in the day after they'd start playing. But the kids didn't like the academic part. High-profile kids would try to blow it off, and they'd obviously either get kicked out and go back home, or be on probation. And night camp was very, very strict. They had old black guys from Chicago that guarded the entrance to the food area. It's all you can eat. And we had meals, all you can eat breakfast, all you can eat lunch, all you can eat dinner, and all you can eat snack. But you're going to eat it there. That guy wasn't. Guy who Elton Brand was going to have 10 cookies in his pocket. He was getting snatched. Where you going? For cookies. His pockets would be out to here. So it was kind of weird back then. And the college counselors, you had a lot more guys who were top guys that were going to school for 2 or 3 college years or more. So Tim Duncan, guys like that, we would play, and the coaches would play pickup with the college guys, like during lunch or afterwards. So, that was kind of a fun part. And also, too, the college guys would play amongst themselves in the evenings. So that was kind of an interesting thing. The ABCD obviously has its history and was competing with Nike at the time. Normally back then, the way the coaches would kind of figure it out, because you didn't have all this other stuff going on. You have maybe 2 coaches from the same school, say TCU, would go to Nike the first 2 days, and their other 2 for the staff would be at ABCD.
Right.
And then they would flip-flop.
Okay.
So everybody saw both when they got back to the office after it was over. They could compare notes or talk about what they saw and compare players. We've seen first-hand information. Now you have so many events, it's nearly impossible to do that. Also back then too, you probably remember, it was a full month.
Yeah.
And guys, if you were coaching, wouldn't see their wives or kids for a whole year on the road, a whole month. And an entire month of time. And then you also had the Punks. They started doing their stuff, and they were slightly better organized than Izzy at the time. They had more corporate involvement, and more people helped them with the organization. And then at the times, looking back on the times have changed. Now, a kid ends the game, he's right on his phone, and he's communicating with people privately through 4 or 5 different methods.
Absolutely. Right.
Text, DMs off the Twitter, Snapchat, or publicly on Twitter for everybody to see. Back then, people would form a line at the payphone. Somebody needed to call his girlfriend, he had a payphone. Somebody needed to call their mom. I was waiting in line for the payphone.
Quarters were a commodity.
Quarters were a commodity. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird. People were lined up. People were going to fight over that payphone.
Hey, kids nowadays don't even know what a payphone is. And you can hardly find one anyway.
It's really, and then the cell phones, people didn't have it.
And then what about just the video footage? Was people recording games back then?
They were, but they were recording it for archival purposes. For example, there's a guy in LA that has a video, and actually Ronnie gave it all. It's older now. He gave it all to Ronnie Flores, and Ronnie is in the process of going through it. He did all the Nike camps. He had the dunk contest with Ronnie Fields and Corey Benjamin and
Ronnie Fields
from Chicago.
Chi-town.
So it was more of a people videotaping, and maybe they showed it to a coach. But again, even the coaches back then, their communication was different. I remember at a fall tournament that Matt Doherty was coaching at Kansas at the time for Roy Williams. He was at the payphone in Long Beach City College. And he told me a story that some guy who was not a coach, might have been a parent, happened to be there, needed to use payphone, and he needed to use it now. And Roy Williams overheard the conversation on the other end of the phone. And Roy tells me, man, just give him the phone. I don't want to be looking for an assistant coach next week. Just give him the phone. So it's amazing how they communicate, and now you have also with these tournaments, you have companies like Fast Model. Ross Comerford did an unbelievable job with the digitizing all the X and O, the play software,
And the brackets and everything else.
yeah. But now what they do too is these coaches at their fingertips, because of a Fast Model, can synchronize everybody's schedule. They get it into a system where they can punch in, they can find out who's playing what, everything. It almost like works for them. It thinks for them.
Technology has really changed.
It's really changed everything. A couple years ago, there was a push to go to more of a online package. There was companies pushing.
Online scouts.
Yeah, or for example, you come here and they would put it in their online, and they would pay a little bit extra to be able to put it on their tablet, on their phone, whatever.
Okay.
And say, because now what's kind of cool a little bit, I don't see that many people using tablets like they did 3 or 4 years ago. So that's kind of cool a little bit now. Maybe because the phone's doing more.
Right.
But they were going to put it on a tablet. That's the problem you have when you have strictly technology only as your source. There's a couple other potential problems. What happens if you lose power? What happens if your power goes out? What happens if your battery goes out, your phone, your tablet, your laptop, and you need to find out.
There's not enough outlets in the gym for everybody to be plugged in at the same time.
Exactly. And there's a guy that I know that did this year that wasn't posting the schedule on the wall. He would tell a college coach, get my app.
You gotta download the app, yeah.
Get the app and follow it, but again, it's almost like the time you pull it up, your reception capability, depending where you are.
Definitely bad, yeah.
So it's almost like the technology has helped a lot, but it also has kind of created maybe too much of a dependency that could have other problems.
Dinos, look right here. I got the Great American Shootout app. I got RCS Sports 2 Adidas Gold, Silver app. And you know what? I don't like looking at the apps. I like having it on the wall. I want to go in and say, okay, I don't want to just see my team. I want to see every team. If I go to the right, who might I win that play if we win our first 2 games? It's just kind of, I don't know if you like the apps now or not.
And a lot of the apps have their function, but it's not at the expense of having something where you can flip through quicker. It's almost like the reception. The reception's bad. How are you going to flip through a 300-page packet?
You're gonna be in trouble.
Right.
I mean, the time you get to the page before you want to see the game's over.
Man, does anybody have a Wi-Fi code?
Yeah, exactly.
You have the Wi-Fi.
And then you have traffic on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And everybody's on it.
Everybody's on it.
That's technology nowadays. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
So the 90s were kind of a period of transition. The big time started. I think Sonny was the first person to the car.
When you say Sonny, who are you talking about?
The car was the first person that created the mega tournament, and he did it for a number of. Besides having he's got all these teams paid to get in it. He did it also for the marketing. He realized the big picture. At one time when he started his tournament, there was an overlap between the Nike thing John Farrow was doing here and what Sonny was doing. And for some reason, Sonny had the capability or just the way it went down, he was getting more teams. And he hired the local guy in town here named Larry McKay. He's from the big times, you remember?
Big time.
And Larry McKay was a high school vice principal at Durango, which they started from, who later became the athletic director for the entire school district. So he was the primary
He was the plug.
access to all the gyms, which gave Sonny first dibs on all those gyms, but even more importantly, gave him the power to deny access
For people outside.
to those gyms. So that's how he got in. I decided to take the country club approach, which is kind of weird marketing. We're going to take all our teams to PCham. We're going to be exclusive. Sonny, on the other hand, maybe sponsored 40, 50 teams at the time, but there was another 350 that were there. So the 350 who bought shoes were watching the Kobe Bryants and the O.J. Mayos and the Lester Earls and guys like that wear their product versus Nike from a marketing standpoint. You go to a non-media market, a very small town. It's a nice venue, it has a nice history, but you have guys getting free shoes, watching other guys getting free shoes. I'm not sure who's doing the buying. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not criticizing the beach anyway. It's a super event. But from a marketing standpoint, if your goal is to sell shoes, then obviously you want to be able to market to those people that buy them. Now obviously Sonny started the walking model approach, where the top guys came to camp, got the latest gear, went back to Birmingham and Memphis, in Dallas, Houston, LA, Albuquerque, Chicago, Philadelphia, and when they went to the parks, everybody saw it.
I need those.
I need those.
Yeah, need those.
But now the problem you have with that model now is nobody's playing at the parks. So nobody.
So what's the new model then?
So that raises a great question. What's the new model? Maybe the new model could be a video, could be, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Well, we have an influx now. It's almost like we've surpassed the happy medium of quality and went to the largesse where it's so diluted. It's almost like people complaining about a drink that is not strong. You may want to hire you may be in the mood for some strong vodka, and that guy's, he's giving you a little drizzle.
Yeah, it's all watered down pretty much. The marketing for it, the supply and demand is kind of going down.
No, I think what's happened more importantly is back 10, 20 years ago, the people that were in this type of tournament were the people that were the lead scorer on a team. All league, all county, all city, all state, already being recruited at a high level.
Right.
Now what you see here is you see the AAU transformation of high school where everybody plays.
Everybody.
No matter if you can't play a lick.
1,000 teams.
Nobody gets cut.
Nobody's got it.
Yeah.
Before All-Star, and you look at the names of the existing teams, had more of a strict meaning. The word All-Star, the word elite means nothing right now.
Absolutely nothing. It's funny you said that. I've actually tweeted that several times, and it's ridiculous how many teams have the elite, title associated with them. And you guys are not elite. Just come up, be more creative, come up with something else. But you're not elite.
I had a team last week in my tournament. Actually, what I did this year is I decided that I'm going to keep it at a reasonable number for not just the quality purpose, but for logistical purposes. I don't want the headaches.
Right.
I had an 80 and a 96, all at one location. And this guy in the 1600 division that doesn't have much of a reputation. I never really heard about them, even though they live not far from me. And this guy wants to play all these top teams. We want to play these top teams. So who do you got? Who was recruited off your team? What have you done?
Yeah.
It's almost like you want to start a Division I program, and from day one, I want to talk to the ACC commissioner or the Big 12 commissioner.
Right.
Or low man, I want to be in the Big 12. What do you got, bro?
Right. That's it.
I mean, where's the
instant
major
success.
news?
Everybody wants instant success if you live in a microwave society. Everybody wants it now. How does that all affect you?
I think it has two ways to look at it. It affects, I think, the overall quality of everything. And there is a positive side to bad basketball, obviously the financial side.
Right.
But at some point, I have more of an approach where it's not just about the money for me. It's got to be something where the quality is something you can put your name behind.
Yeah, that's your passion. That's where you were raised on that.
And that's when we started the thing here. We started this thing with 48 teams. Now we're up to 500 or so. And I'm in the minority here arguing for, because at some point, you got to be comfortable with what you got.
Right.
And when you overreach or try to do too much, sometimes more is less.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to building teams, whether it comes to building events, you got to find the right,
The right mix.
the right point of return for everything that matters to you. And then that's the thing where we are now at a crossroad. There was an article on CBS Sports, Gary Parrish, who flew in today, and he took a couple of samples, a few coaches complaining about the packing.
Here at the 48.
Not 48, in general.
Okay.
In general. Complaining, echoing complaints of these coaches
What's some of their complaints?
that the packets were too much.
Okay.
That there's too many packets. They were forced to buy the packet. It was a mistake, and I raised it with Gary on the Twitter. I responded back to him. I said, I think it's not fair for you, not right, to generalize.
Right.
Not everybody forces people to buy the packet. If you want to go after them, then go after the people that are doing it.
Right.
Don't lump the people that aren't with them. It's like it's easy for you because you got a 300-word maximum to write, but don't do that to people.
Right.
Because the same thing with self-influence, back in the thing book came out, a large part of the over-regulation of what we see now, of us having to go and be certified every year, of us being able to talk to coaches, them being able to talk to us, comes from books and things that were raised that really focus on 1% of the community.
Talking about the
And everybody gets lumped in to the whole bunch. And it just doesn't make any common sense.
Right.
Because you have almost a scenario where things get complained to the people above who feel a pressure to react to it, to satisfy certain people's fears or concerns.
Sure, they stay relevant and in charge.
And do things that they don't know what they're doing, number one. And they don't know what they're responding to. And they don't know the terrain, the environment that they're trying to regulate.
Right.
And they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. See, that's the biggest mistake they've done the last 20 years, is all the stuff they've added year by year, and I told that to them.
Now when you talk about we talk about
NCAA, my apologies.
No, we're fine.
NCAA. Everything they've added. And they're still complaining about the same problems. Well, at some point, if you keep adding things and you're not solving the problem, then maybe you're not adding the right way.
Exactly.
At some point, it's got to dawn on you, maybe we're going in the wrong direction.
I have a question for you. How many times have people you've been in this a long time, I remember you vividly from long years and years on back. How many times has the NCAA come in and just sat down and spoke with you and said, Dinos, what do you think about this?
No, they do that now, the last 2 years. They have that event summit last year in India. And this year, they finally brought people to the top. And the problem we got here is we don't even know how they go about doing these rules. They just announce them.
Right.
We don't know which ones are done through the process. We don't know which ones are done unilaterally.
Right.
The process is so hard for legal minds to unravel. And like, for example, the rule now with the media, or a couple years ago, they tried to do it.
You mean the rule where the media can't say what the college coaches now?
Yes, that rule. Which makes it, I'll tell you what happened. A couple years ago, they tried to institute that rule. I think Frank Burleson or somebody who had been in the media for decades, who knew the people at the highest level of media relations with NCAA, called in. And he got the right person, they squashed him immediately. They just almost, which shows you, if that was a rule, that was a discretionary rule.
Right.
Because if it was a mandated rule, they wouldn't be able to wipe it out. Like if somebody who had their own pet peeve or their own issue,
slide that in.
Now, apparently, it happened again this past year. A well-known college coach wrote an email, complained, the only guy that complained. In my 20 years of doing events, I've never heard or had one college coach come to me and say, Dino, I can't watch games over here. These FOBs are, MFers are bothering me. I can't think. I can't focus. They're asking me for autographs. Whatever. I've never had anybody
20 plus.
do that. All right? And then you have certain also scenarios. Roy Williams sees his high school coach for a year. He wants to sit down, and you've got a victim like you're evicting somebody from who's got a fight at a bar over there. Or you have somebody's wife who's sitting there, somebody's 10-year-old kid. Where do you draw the line? Common sense has to take over, actually.
Life.
Well, it doesn't make any sense. Now, with these other rules too, they have a geography rule. And what I've argued with them about that is this. You really can call it the pump rule.
No, when you talk about geography, you talk about the
joint state rule.
Right.
Because what was happening was, and the pumps weren't the only guys that were doing it. There were other people as well. The pumps did it a lot. Where they would bring in a guy from Maine who was a big-time player through a coaching contact.
Right, yeah.
Or Chicago. Or they had Jerry McNamara one year.
Yeah.
Okay. Nick Cater Medley. Brad Buckman had one year. From Austin.
Yeah, Texas.
So the rule is well-intentioned. I understand it. I agree with the premise of it. But at some point, you have to comprehend or analyze, is it feasible? Can we really expect event operators to comply with this rule? How are we don't have the legal authority to mandate people giving us private personal information, right? We also don't know or have no right to question people's living arrangements.
Right.
Okay? Now, there may be a scenario where somebody truly is homeless, and they may not be proud of that.
Right.
And they're using somebody else's address because they have no address. You also have people with, who live in homes whose mother may have a different last name. Their father may have a different last name. Their father may have adopted them. It may be their stepfather. You're questioning their family relationships, which I don't think from a privacy standpoint, the NCAA should be doing. I told them that. I told them before. Also, that people have different heterosexual relationships, homosexual relationships that they may or may not want revealed.
It's not your business.
It's not their business. And that's part of the problem. And when and you can ask Ryan Silver this, last fall I got up and I told them, you got a problem here. The problem is not that you guys are bad people. You work hard. They throw this in your lap. You do the best you can, doing what they order you to do. But at some point, the reason you're losing credibility among the schools, among the people you govern, is your values, your rules don't reflect American values. Because in America, when somebody's dad commits a crime, you don't throw the kid in jail, right? When somebody is working with somebody, I'm working at a firm and I commit white collar crime, for example, and you're working with me, we don't throw you in jail.
Right.
So it's almost like right now, they're holding event operators responsible for parents and players and coaches lying about certain things.
Yeah.
That's not American.
Right.
You're forcing people to lose their events because somebody else did something that they should be responsible for, not us.
They want you to police everything.
But we don't have the powers. The problem is we don't have the legal authority to verify what they're asking us to verify.
Right. That's a great point.
And that's where they're wrong. And that's where also today, Lou Williams had a good point. He had a problem with an event, apparently. I'm not sure the details. And because there was a strict deadline or something, he had no appeal process. And he made a good point. If you're going to take something away from somebody, at least have an added safeguard of having a right to appeal. To not lose that, property or whatever thing, a value that he has. And that's where we are right now. And I think it's almost like they're trying to, and what they don't realize they're doing is anybody who has other interests other than basketball, that are professional, well-educated, family people, religious people, you're almost like discouraging them to be involved in this. Because somebody has other things of value in their life. Why would they go through all the headache and all the BS of this?
Right.
And what they're doing is they're forcing the good people out, slowly but surely. And the people they want to eliminate that have nothing else but basketball they want to weed out are going to stay here. Follow me?
Yeah.
They're being counterproductive.
Right.
You should be encouraging the good people to be in it, not by making their life more miserable.
Right. Longevity. You have a lot of history. You understand how the game works. You know how to communicate with people. If they force you out, or some of the people who've been around just like you, it serves. It's not a. What's the mean to an end right there? Now you got new people in there who they have their own agendas behind it. Don't have the relationships and things of that nature. So,
Like this week, you have a scenario with this, the Fab 48 didn't just pop up out of nowhere. What was happening back then, 6 years ago, you had Reebok had pulled the sponsorship from Larry McKay. Sonny had left. He pulled the sponsorship. He couldn't do it without sponsorship. Adidas had their own thing. And obviously Adidas, very naturally, are going to take care of their own first. That's the way it goes. A family takes care of their kids first before they can take care of everybody else. And then Hal Pastor had sold his, at that time, main event, Vision Sports, to an outside people that didn't have the relationships or the organizational skills, as you know.
terrible.
It became terrible. And we had an opening there because what ended up happening was this school here was just built. I have been thinking for a long time about a concept to improve the quality of A's. And obviously didn't know that it was going to come to fruition at the time. The timing of the facility, the void of the options for teams, non-Adidas teams, and just the ability for us to have 3 courts at one facility, so coaches could see more kids, teams could see more coaches. People are approaching it the wrong way. If you do things well, do things good, the money's going to follow. You have talent and you can play. You're going to get a contract, especially now this year.
Right.
It's almost like somebody worried about the contract before putting the work in.
What?
You follow? That's where we are right now.
What?
If they think everything is easy, they want the money before they put the work in. And that's where they put the cart before the horse comes in.
That's promotion before performance, basically.
So if you're good at what you do, you're going to have value. You're going to create value. And what you have now is there's only so many coaches per program. At some point, Vegas can only absorb so many teams per so many events. And you have a scenario where, and Clark alluded to it in an article last day or two, where you have USA Basketball extracting to top talent because of the calendar. I'll get to that in a second. And you have other guys who are coming in only for the money grab.
Yes, sir.
And they have the misconception that most programs are going to pay for 7 packets. They're not going to pay for 7 packets. Especially if you're forcing them to do so. They're not going to. And they're not really providing anything different or better. And my position would be, if you think you can do this better, and you have the leverage, the resources, and the relations to do it, come on in.
Right.
It's America. But if you're coming in here just to make a money grab, you're hurting these teams.
Everybody.
You're hurting these coaches.
Right.
You're hurting these media people. You're making life miserable because you need $10.
Right.
That's wrong. That's wrong. And hopefully, I think at some point...
Is there a solution to that?
Yeah. I think it's the teams, the coaches, have to decide, do we want good basketball in July in Vegas, or do we not? Mm-hmm. If they don't want it, they should patronize the people that want to tear it apart, don't want to make it bad basketball. Do it with your pocketbook. Do it with your resources.
So you're basically saying the event, well, not the event promoter, but the director, the team director has to decide which event he's going to play in, because if you go with, if we play in your event and these coaches are upset about having to play 5 to 7 packages, they may not come. We don't want that. We want to be, it's almost to the point where you have to ask the event promoter, the people putting on the events, how much are you charging at the door before I get there? Because sometimes, you know...
No, they do that on the NCAA website. They do that. They know ahead of time. I was in the background. There's a guy here who's a parent, a Gorman parent, whose son was playing on a team in Antonio Curl's tournament. He started at the final chapter tournament. He had a guy with 80 teams. He did some kind of semi-circuit this spring. And most of those teams were average teams, from what I could tell. I never saw them play. But from what I could tell, the amount of people that were top 100, top 150 players, it was kind of minimal. So he said the 15s were playing, I think he ended up getting 86 teams or something along that line. This 15 and under team was playing at the second facility, at 2 or 3 different facilities. And they were asked to move their game. They had not seen coaches all week. They moved to the main site tonight for coaches. And he showed me a picture of 0 coaches. They were told to come over and see a showcase game for 0 coaches. He was upset about it. And I go, that's the problem. Yeah. Because you see, at some point, you gotta, if you're in this for the teams, if you're in this for the players, if you're in this to help these kids get scholarships, but you only care about getting the freebie or getting a perk or getting some kickback, then you're not accomplishing your objective. We had a team here that had a problem making one of the games here. And he tried to blame it on the brand he was associated with. I said, wait a minute. If you're forced to do that, then why aren't the other teams from the same brand forced to do that? He got kind of irate. I said, what event are you talking about? And he couldn't name it. I go, what facility are you playing? And he gave me the facility. I connected the dots.
Right.
And I go, listen, man, just be honest with me. You don't need to beat around the bush.
Yeah.
For one. And number 2, you obviously got some kind of perk, incentive to go over there and play a game.
No doubt.
But again, are you really helping your team? By forcing these coaches to dig deeper in their pockets just to watch you play one game? Are you really helping? What are you in it for? Again, we're having problems right now with teams. There's several teams that I don't even deal with anymore. Because for many years I was helping these teams out. I was very sympathetic. Couldn't pay the full team fee. Couldn't pay any team fees. And these same people don't just have one team. They have multiple teams. They can't pay. I admire They're charity. But if you want to be charitable, do it on your dime.
Right.
Don't be charitable and do it on somebody else's dime.
Right.
Because it's your choice. It's your choice. That's the other person may be charitable, but he might not be able to do it 100% of the time.
No doubt.
Now I'm lucky I'm not married. If I was married, you got to answer somebody else. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. The missus, absolutely. She's not having that. No doubt.
Let me switch gears for a quick second.
Okay.
So Dino, I'm from Chicago, and I remember I was in, I think, the 7th or 8th grade. At this time, this is 92, 93-ish. So when you were talking about, pre-internet, social media, all that. And I remember getting a Sports Illustrated, and Shea Cotton was on the cover. And I was like, this is 8th grade. Like, how was this even possible? Could you talk about, just this Shea? I know you have a documentary. I'm not sure if it's been released or not yet.
Yes, man-child.
Could you talk about him as a player? What was his story like? What was he like growing up?
He was I've known Shea since he was 7th grade. His older brother was, I think, 3 grades older, but may have been just 2 years younger.
Okay.
There was some little bit of similarity. They were very close. Parents were from Louisiana originally. They grew up in San Pedro. Dad was in construction. James Sr. And all that, another guy who's got tons, a lot of that documentary was because back then, there were certain parents that would video everything. Mm-hmm. Back when the old video days, the VHS,
the big one.
Yeah. You know who else got a lot of video too? Is DeMar DeRozan's father, because that's what he does.
Okay.
He's a video guy. But he was very lucky because he had access to even in 2005, 2008, he had access to the high-def cameras back then, which was very expensive for the average person to buy.
No doubt.
Because he taught at Compton College, and the college had high-def video as part of their supplies and their equipment there. And James Senior would video that a tripod, video, halftime, go out, take a smoke, come back and video. And Shea was an amazing athlete, even in middle school. And was already well known by all the shooter people. Phil Knight knew him, the 9th grader. And there were times where that was obviously probably nice for him, but it was also somewhat of a curse too, because it kind of put a lot of pressure on him from a reputation standpoint. And it created a lot of, I think, burden on him, because every time he stepped on the floor, you could sense that he was almost feeling like he had to do something spectacular.
Couldn't do anything wrong. Can't have any bad days.
Yeah.
I mean, he had this big thing, so it was either a dunk or a 3. And that, I think, was part of his development that never really developed that middle game. It was either the spot up 3 or he was dunking on Kevin Garnett or dunking on somebody. But he was amazing at times, and I had him. He played in one of my early fall tournaments, and I'll never forget, as a 9th grader, he had a play off a free throw where a 6'9" guy had the inside position, and we were shooting the free throw. He Shea had the second position. And the guy did textbook box out. And the ball came off the rim, he just jumped over him. Like leapfrogging, like a Vince Carter type thing. And he was just amazing. But that was really probably, in the last 20 years, one of the biggest crowd attractors. Everywhere they go, it would draw.
What high school did you go to?
He went originally to St. John Bosco, and then he had a problem there with Jelani Gardner and him kind of butted heads in the middle of the year. So he played there for a semester, for a tournament. He had some personality issues, and he ended up transferring to Modern Day, right, the same season. And they started playing their game at the UCI Event Center, the 6,000 seat arena, which was not far, but it was probably about 10 miles away.
And he's packing it every night.
And they were getting 3,000 to 4,000, and then the big games maybe more. And he was like a power athlete, and it's kind of weird how the whole thing, because his brother, who people didn't really view as a high-level, long-term prospect, with the Long Beach State with Seth Greenberg, was developed from a forward into a two-guard. Got drafted by the NBA, played a couple of years with George Karl with the Suns. He might have played 1 year at the Bucks when George went over. And if those guys were pre-college, if you were to bet who was going to be the NBA and who was not going to make it, you would put the $1 million on Shea Cotton and a zero on the other brothers. It's kind of weird how things work out some ways. Sometimes.
It's very unpredictable. I remember hearing the story about Russell Westbrook not really being a really good, I'm not saying he was horrible, but he wasn't obviously what he is today.
No, he was not either. He was not really even heavily recruited till his end of his senior year.
Oh wow, super late bloomer.
So he was a low major. I think his biggest offer prior to the end of his senior year might have been Miami, Kent State.
Wow.
But what ended up happening was Jordan Farmar turned pro, and that opened a scholarship. So basically, Russell Westbrook got Farmar's scholarship. If Farmar had stayed in school, he might have went to Miami, Kent State. Who knows where he would have went?
Right.
Wow.
That's pretty good, right?
And he also was invited to my camp as an extra body, and as a favor, and did not make any All-Star game. And there was one picture of him from that camp. It was somebody did a online article about it for some reason.
I've seen it.
Yeah, you got a picture of him.
Twitter or something.
He's kind of turned the profile. Now I just got a couple more. My photographers found a few ones that are not that good that are evidence of being there. But about a year ago, there was a kid from Vegas who was in my camp, whose dad videoed the camp, and they found the tape recently. And he had a sequence in there where this kid is playing against James Harden and Russell Westbrook in the same game. So there's like a 2 or 3 page sequence.
Really?
Where Harden is scoring. This guy's guarding Westbrook.
You found that out. Hey.
And he put it on Facebook.
Okay.
And that's the first time I saw it in years. So he did not make any All-Star game. It shows you too how sometimes a little bit of adversity gives you that 5th gear. There's a reason he was at 0. We plays that way. Because people didn't give a shit about it. He knows what it's like. People don't give a shit about you. Right. He knows what it's like when people disrespect you. He knows what it's like people being worried about you. And that's part of his strength.
Absolutely.
And maybe sometimes when you get too much too soon, or you have no adversity early on, when you finally get it, you don't know how to get over that hurdle.
You got to work through it. I had a quick Russell Westbrook story I was telling people. Remember DeAndre Archie? I can't remember the name of the guy that was running the team, but he started a team called 94 by 50 out there back in the day. And Russell Westbrook was on that team. And we played in California, went out to Boo Williams and everything else. He never got off the bench. Never got off the bench. He just wasn't good enough at the time. He was like a sophomore. But he never complained either.
He was also, his athleticism didn't really kick in until he got to college. Because trust me, I would remember shit like that in high school. Baron Davis wasn't really dunking until senior year.
Yeah.
He was like 5'7" as a sophomore. But I have a story I tell people sometimes about Russell Westbrook as a freshman. Had a good year, not great, good year. He was coming back for his sophomore year. And I had a team in the St. No Summer League at Cal State LA, and we played them in the transformation, his speed with the ball at that time was the best I'd ever seen in that league.
Really?
And the next week I'm on the road, I see Ben Howard. I said, Ben, Well, I'll let you know, I got good news and bad news for you. I go, the good news is Russell Westbrook is playing at a pro level right now. I go, the bad news is you can enjoy him for 1 year. So, he's kind of funny. But trust me, what I saw, he ain't lasted past this year.
That's crazy.
And I don't think he fully realized it. You only have to go back and stats, 4 points, 7 points as a freshman. He didn't put up big numbers. I got like a Ben Simmons. Like Tyler Dorsey had 13 points a game this year as a freshman.
Right.
Nowhere near those numbers. And next year, he had not only a big year, but he also, too, he had the signature moment. That one dunk against Cal, remember? They got replayed over and over again to where it actually happened on my former players. Jamal Boykin, who was from Duke, transferred there. And Jamal kind of got screwed by his own teammate because the other post guy was supposed to hedge on the pick and roll. And he didn't hedge. And Jamal got caught
in no man's
land. And he couldn't know where he could go out there. Or he goes out of bounds. So he got there, he was too late. And that posterized really, I think, started cementing him, hey, this guy's out of here this year.
Yeah, that blew his name up some more. Definitely. So, how long have you been doing the Pangos camp?
The Pangos camp started right after I did the LeBron James Pangos Dream Classic in 2003.
LeBron James Pangos Dream Classic.
So basically, the Dream Classic had been going on since '95. I always do it. I did it with the coach from Dominguez. Paul Pierce was a senior, the first one. It was a triple header. Paul Pierce was a senior in high school. And then in the late '90s, we started going to UCLA because what ended up happening was back then, high schools had the three things they did. You had holiday tournaments in December. You had the league in January, February, and then you had the playoffs. Colleges were experimenting with these TV type matchup games where people would go on the college level. You'd have Ohio State versus Indiana in Chicago, neutral forum.
Right.
So I took that to the high school level, and I said, hey, there was nothing, no rules against it. I said, well, it would be great to, instead of go to 4 different games to see 10 different big time players, let's all bring them here once.
Yeah.
So we had the King, and then also too, the King holiday was became a national holiday when people were off at school. And I did it on that Monday. Nobody ever done a game on a Monday, not a holiday. It was a way to bring people together. Actually, it was really because we could get predominantly black schools, predominantly white schools that could ball, suburban schools, inner city schools. I had a one price admission. You could sit wherever you want to sit. There weren't people sitting in the VIPs who had money, guys who didn't have money upstairs. If you got there early, you could just sat early.
No doubt.
So, and we ended up having some good games in the late 90s, the Dominguez versus Westchester. Tony Bland, who was an assistant at USC, was on those Westchester teams. Dominguez had Tayshaun Prince, Kenny Bruner, Jason Thomas, who was a great two-sport athlete. And it was we started to draw. We had one year 7,500, and the next year 8,500. And we moved from Loyola, from UCLA one year to Loyola Marymount. We sold that out with Tyson Chandler versus Clovis West. Chris Hernandez played at Stanford. Clovis West had the coach that had the famous offense that Calipari adopted, the dribble drive.
Okay.
The guy that created the dribble drive was started at Clovis West.
Okay.
Vance Wahlberg was coach at Pepperdine for a while. And he was assistant for he did that dribble drive with all white kids and a couple of illegal Dominicans, which later turned into illegal players. So, and they were good. They had the guard from Stanford, Chris Hernandez, who was half white, half Mexican, who was like a tough SOB.
He could play, man.
Not backing down. He was a north-south dribbler, but he was a tough. So he wasn't backing down. So that was when the NBA team started. I had Elgin Baylor at the game, Clippers, And then around 2002, we had kind of a down year for that. And we had moved it to a facility, a brand new facility at Azusa Pacific. And that was probably the worst 10-1 in many years. And then that's when the LeBron James buzz started happening. So I figured, hey man, I'll take it back to Paulie. There's something about this guy that's special.
Yeah.
Because I had coached him. I first saw him as a rising sophomore at the end of the live period summer event at Cal in Berkeley called the Elite Eight. A couple of Oakland Soldiers used to run.
And that's when he played with Oakland Soldiers.
Yeah, and the connection there was, I keep forgetting the exact relationship, but his high school coach is now the coach at Akron. Keith Dambrock was the high school coach at the time. Drew Joyce was the youth coach who came aboard as the high school assistant, who was the connection between those kids in school. And Ben Braun was from that area. Ben Braun was either assistant together with his high school coach somewhere else. They were either friends growing up in high school or colleagues, some kind of relationship. They had just won I think the state title. I believe, I could be wrong, Maverick Carter, who's involved now with marketing, was a senior on that team. I think I could be wrong.
He was.
Senior on that team.
Yep.
And they just won it. And people were starting to know who he was, but not to the level we're going now. So he came out that summer, and people knew he was a high major. They had no idea he was an all-time great at that time. So Ben Braun's probably thinking, hey, I got in with this guy.
Right.
I want to bring him out here, put him on a team with a couple other guys. I recruited Leon Pope on that also. Yindi Ubaka was there.
Yeah.
And I want to get this guy. They know each other, kind of build a little clay, little Fab Five type scenario. So he comes out. At that time, I had Dijon Thompson on my team, who went to UCLA and Phoenix Suns for a couple of years. He's finishing up his overseas pro career. He was like a top 30 player, a borderline McDonald's. 6'7" guard, Penny Hardaway kind of guard, big guard. Brian Shaw type guard. Kirk Snyder, was in the NBA for a few years, who's now completely lost his mind. And Kirk was a nobody, almost like Russell. Prior to his senior summer, Kirk was a low major playing on my second team with a couple of his friends from the same high school. And he really came on. I had a kid named Cody Pearson, who went to Long Beach State, was a good player, went to ABC camp. And we're beating this team at the beginning. And this kid didn't play much in the first half. And we're up, maybe double figures at halftime. Dijon's playing great, Kirk's playing out of his mind. They put this kid in the game. And then back then, but look, I LeBron James. And again, the reason I remember it so well, because that's a name you remember.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
someone said Michael or Thomas or Jimmy, it was kind of a very unique name.
LeBron.
But I didn't know he was from, at the time, until after that game, I thought he was an Oakland kid. So I'm thinking, I've never seen this guy. Where's this guy from? But his style of play, though, back then, was more like Paul Pierce than it is now. He was still kind of growing his body. He was still kind of, Paul kind of shifty, kind of wobbly. You know what I'm talking about? The second half, all I can remember was he could not miss. And he was getting knocked to the floor, making shots and ones, falling out of bounds and ones, getting to the bucket through contact and buckets, long range, off the dribble, putbacks, tip jams.
All this in one hand.
It was a hell of a performance.
Hell of a half.
And I'm thinking, who is this guy? How am I just discovering him right now? He lives in California. This guy's from Ohio. That rule wasn't back in effect at that time.
I remember because Kendrick Perkins would play with Oakland Soldiers.
Yeah.
And
And LeBron James, and he's only a sophomore. So fast forward, so then I heard him on radio a couple times back then, because back then the newspapers would have audio clips rather than video clips. More audio back then.
Right.
They'd stick an audio clip of the interview with a coach of Pistons or, Michigan head coach, Tommy Amaker at the time or whoever. And when I was thinking about inviting the team there. I heard a couple clips. And I go, there's something about this guy. He reminds me of Muhammad Ali. It's the way he was so poised when people asked him questions. He was so polished. He was so
at a very young age.
Smooth, very prepared, and very professional. And also something like he had been studying people.
Absolutely.
Other pro guys and how they answer stuff. And it wasn't like it was anything unique, but it was something you'd expect from somebody who was a pro, a vet, if you know what I'm saying. And even in the post-game conference of the Dream Classic year he played, we were in one of the rooms there, and Bill Plaskey, you see him on ESPN, had never been to a high school game. In all the years that I've been watching high school in LA, I never saw him in a high school game, even a playoff game, even a state sectional final, nothing. Shows up for that game and wants to do a big piece about it and make a big issue about these guys crisscrossing the country to play in all these events. And before he asked the question, the other guy popped in. He said, LeBron, want to know, what schools are you considering right now? Who are the favorites for you? And LeBron goes, colleges? He goes, yeah. What colleges are your final schools, or who is favorite for you right now? Who's leading for you? I forgot how you put it. Now, if some guy would have asked me that question, and I was a near certain lock for number one, I would have probably popped off on him or said, next question. And the way he looked at me in the eye. He didn't laugh. I would have clowned the guy. And most would have clowned the guy. And he did it in a very professional way. He said, I'm only considering one school right now, he tells him. So we got the notepad ready. You're going to break the news. One school, he said. The College of St. Vincent, St. Mary's. Good, next question. So he disarmed the guy without really kind of smacking him the way he deserved to be smacked. You're the only guy in the world that doesn't know this guy's going pro. Yeah. I felt like intervening. The problem, hold up. Do the KD.
Let me take care of
it. KD, Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Hold up a second. If you haven't known, you haven't heard, he ain't going to school, bro. Right. Where have you been? And second of all, where have you been? And who gave you that credential?
Yeah, you're definitely out of place.
Oh man,
You're definitely out of place. How many pros you think have been through your Fat 48? I mean, no, I'll tell you what, Pangos.
The count the other day was, right now, there was at least, I don't know whether it was 40-something or 60-something that are active, and then you count the ones that were at some point, like a Gabriel Pruitt, who went to USC, who was a bench player for that Celtic team and won an NBA. So he's got a ring. I didn't play. They got a ring.
He counts.
Yeah, it's in the 100. It's well over 100. It's probably. I would have to go back. It's probably over 100, 150.
Wow. And this is done. You do this once a year.
Once a year.
It's the last week of May.
Normally the way it works, it's the weekend always after Memorial Day. The first weekend after Memorial Day.
How did you get the name? And what other names were you probably teetering with?
Well, the name kind of came up because I was looking for a new kind of a name for what I was doing. And my first original name was Full Court Press, which was my scouting service.
You had a website, but I remember.
No, but before the website, I had the scouting service. Before the website, I still have the website.
Okay.
Which is basically the informational town square for my events, the Full Court Press, and also the scouting service. And the reason I got the scouting service was when I was doing these live events and I was producing these booklets. And I realized, hey man, people are getting paid for these scouting services. I'm already doing it.
Yeah. I'm already in the
You know what I mean? I'm already halfway home.
I need that.
So that was part of it. And then Pan, the first part of it means like Pan American. All encompassing. Pan American means all of the Americans. Pan Asia means Pan-Asian games for all the Asian countries. And then the second word was kind of a makeshift or compressed version of COS in English. In Greek, it's more pronounced with the G, gos, which means like a cosmo. Cosmo means universe, around the universe, the world. So, kind of an all-world, the ball's round, kind of a round, it's a round thing.
Pangos.
So that's how it came to be. And like in Greece, when they call the World Cup, they call it in Greek, Pangosmos Kipolo. Kipolo's cup. Pangosmos means worldwide cup,
Gotcha.
World Cup. So I kind of compressed that.
Pangos, there it is.
Man, if I'd have known that, I've been trying to make sure my kids be part of that a long time ago. Hey, if this is what it means, I need to break down the words a little bit.
Sometimes what ends up happening is, and I have this conversation with other friends of mine that do events and do teams, is you got to be, I think, at some point, to stick out unique. If you're too much, too generic, if your name's not creative, there's one Boo Williams.
Right.
There was one Riverside Church.
One.
It's not West Coast All-Stars, or West Coast All-Stars League, or West Coast Basketball, and West this. I mean, come up with something a little bit more creative. If you want people to remember you, you may not want to say West Coast Classic, or East Coast Classic.
Right.
Southern Classic. Texas Classic. I mean,
How many more classics?
No, what I'm saying is, it doesn't really automatically connect you with the face,
right,
with the brand,
right,
with the entity.
It goes back to the whole elite story.
Elite and all-stars.
Yeah, it's the same.
And too many teams have a name. And for example, I know Jeff Webster's here. He does his pro skill stuff. I see 4 or 5 other pro skills in their name. That people can get confused.
Right.
Now you have a scenario in Arizona where you had a team that was organized by one group of people, funded by another group of people, called Powerhouse. They had a falling out. So now the people that are no longer with the money call themselves Power Factory, and the other one calls themselves Powerhouse. As if the coaches have enough confusion they got to deal with. And there's 20 teams in each group. How do you know who's power whatever, who belongs to what group?
What kid is playing where?
What kid is playing where?
Yeah.
That's a wrestling. You're not again. Are you helping or you're not helping? Are you part of the solution? Just makes up something that nobody else has. Same thing with my good friend Ito, the Magic. He's got a nice brand, Comp Magic. I see 10 other Magics. Some of which I got an Orange County Magic. Now he does a good job with his family of Magics, but if you weren't really in the tune with everything, you would know that SoCal Magic had nothing to do with it. You wouldn't then know that Orange County Magic. So there's people biting off.
Yeah. Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's almost like somebody could see that team and think they're part of this group. You're not helping your brand, is it?
At all.
Especially if they're not good.
So you have those type of dynamics involved. And I think the more unique you can make whatever you're doing to where it stands out, to where it has unique value.
Absolutely.
And I think, Peak Jam's a good term. I think the Dream Classics thing that sticks. I think Pangos is very unique. The closest thing to conflict with Pangos is Kevin Pangos. And actually, one of the things that I regret doing is not inviting Kevin Pangos to the Pangos game. And I actually had a chance to.
I would have never thought that didn't happen.
I got one more question for you. We get ready to wrap up here, but you've been in a lot of documentaries as well. I've seen you come across the screen several times. what's that process like for you? And also, are you thinking about, creating your own documentary and you have all these events?
Well, the documentaries are starting to resemble the tournaments here. You got so many. I think also too the timing is important because so many people are trying to do it at the same time. It may not have the same effect. Like Lenny Cook had a very important story to tell.
Absolutely.
It's almost some point where this information age, where we're bombarded by so much information. How much can we consume? It's almost like you have to spread it out, or the timing is everything. And I think people call on me. I think in many cases, maybe because I'm maybe a different type of bird in this zoo, which is the grassroots. Because I've kind of created a different unique path. I turned down shoe companies that have turned down Nike contracts to their shock, because it comes down to sometimes what appears to be there might be good for some people, it may work, but not every deal is a good deal. It depends, it's just timing of it, the obligations you have under it. I think what you're seeing now too, and the Adidas now, it's almost like they're at a crossroads because they have several good teams. Eto's got a good team, you got a good team. At what point does the brand value matter to where you're giving all these other guys an angle in many cases in people's own areas? And if you're the only person in that area giving something of unique value, and now you've got 10 people giving it, what real value do you now have? And you may be more equipped based upon your experience, your coaching, your track record, your history of your program, tradition, of attracting the kind of calibers you need to be competitive with the other major circuits. And on the other hand, you get so many people that are focused the wrong way, in my opinion. They're so thirsty for the deal, thirsty for the affiliation. They're hurting their own financial situation.
And hurting the other ones who were really in it for the right
See, that it goes with the teams or the events, and at some point, I kind of understand what Adidas is doing. They want more teams involved, and part of it could be a marketing element, and I've been told that people upstairs want to get the product out there on the streets more, but at some point, there's got to be a correlation to sales. Because there's no correlation to sales, all you're doing is wasting product.
Seeding product.
Or if the product is so easy to get for free, why would anybody buy it?
Right, there it is.
And I think with the exception of Jordans and some of the Kobe stuff, where people who get stuff for free will buy it.
Absolutely.
And so it's how do you make it a value? But I'm not quite sure you do it if you're not to that level yet by giving everything away. And it's almost like you're better having quality versus quantity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then going back to the original question, another question I wanted to bring up too is, going forward here, we have so much division and so much dilution. So the question is, where do we go from here? And not one person has the answer, not one circuit has the answer. I think at some point too, I think the circuits are going to have to understand, hopefully get on board, say, something, we can do what we're required to do and market our companies and help us make the money we're expected to help them make at the cash register. But can we do that in a way that has the same effect on our corporate objectives and help the overall game? Or is it mutually exclusive? Do we have to carve everything up and have this thing look like Yugoslavia after Tito leaves? You know what I mean? Does it have to be that way? Can you guys do what you need to do and have maybe another element here where we all get together?
That was my question. I said, will we ever see all three brands playing in the same events again?
The only way it's going to happen if the people there appreciate the need or consider themselves as guardians of the game, number one. That's number one. The two other possibility if somebody, an intervening force, I'm not quite sure who that would be, it would have to be somebody with tremendous resources, could come in and basically, I hate to use the word tempt, but to incentivize these teams from thinking beyond just that one brand. Maybe an Apple, maybe a Microsoft, maybe a Samsung comes and says, wait a minute, you're making what? An Adidas or Nike or Under Armour? 50, you're cleaning 50 after you pay your expenses, 10 grand for 50. We'll give you 200 grand just to play in our shit for one weekend. See, that guy's get off the shitter. And then we'll see how it is, worried about their deal. And then there's somebody's
going to take, a lot of people will take.
Who, I'm not sure anybody's business model might allow for that to happen. It would be somebody who might be involved in one of those companies that had money to burn. You know something? I'm not going to die with all this. Let me see if I can do something that's going to have to improve this scenario. Because the only other model that could work, and I've been thinking about this, would be something similar to what the Europeans do. If you look at the European pro model, everybody plays in their country. Every country's got a league. And they have their own league system. They have their own playoffs. But guess what? They got the Euro League. But what does the Euro League do? They say, hey, Italy, you give me your top 3 teams. Greece, you give me your top 2. France, you give me your top 3. Spain, you give me your top 4. And you don't abandon your brand. You don't abandon your team. You don't even abandon your league. But you're playing for something greater. And you're improving the game. And that's what I think the next step here has got to be. What intervening force is going to come in and say, listen, and convince these people, you know something? You going to Peach Jam, or you going to Under Armour, or you going to South Carolina for Adidas isn't the only way you market your product. Going somewhere where it's not sponsored, where your top players like a Jared Allen or a Kobe Simmons or a Michael Porter is still wearing Nikes, Adidas, Under Armour. You're still repping the brand. And guys who are buying shoes that don't get the shit for free are watching. Right. That's marketing too, bro. That's marketing too. Yes. See, so it's almost like either they don't comprehend that, or there's other things going involved there that it's not part of that thought process.
Precedent over it, yeah.
So, but ultimately, again, these all three do the job. I have a relationship with all three, okay, whether it's Nike, Adidas, or Under Armour, and they do a good job. I think ultimately, I think that the first brand that finds a way to be inclusive, I think is going to get some marketing benefits of it, and can play it off. Hey, these guys over here, they don't want to be down with you, Mr. Average Joe. These guys over here don't think you're shit. Come play with me. We're going to give you a chance to get in, be part of the party. And it's almost, or like an NCAA tournament. The Euro League NCAA tournament. There's got to be at least one time a year where we come together as a basketball community. Because you may be Adidas, somebody else may be Nike, somebody else might be Under Armour, but you're still part of the basketball community. The goals are the same. The interests are the same. These kids come from the same backgrounds. The diversity is the same.
And the kids want to play each other.
I'll tell you, Dinos, you've been doing this for the 48 for like 7 years now, right?
2010 is first year.
Okay, 7 years, 6 years. All right, so, excuse me. The first time I came was like 2 years ago. And I heard about it before then. I had to be a part of it. I was not playing anything, I just came just hanging out, just wanted to see. And just the ambiance, how close everybody is to the floor, the coaches, it's like, it was just, I have to be here.
It's a win-win. It creates more of an electricity. The coaches like it because they're more visible. They want to be visible. By being so close, you can't be nothing but visible. versus being up upstairs or.
Man, it's so unique. And then the fact that you had brands from the other shoe companies here. I just said I need that because I don't want to just, when I was with Nike, I didn't want to just play against Nike teams all the time. I want to be when it was Adidas. I don't just want to play. I want to play against those other guys who everyone else is talking about. I want to see how my guys compare up to those guys and match up. And this was the only place that I could see that.
This is evolved to where we're obviously getting Under Armour teams, and we have no issues with them. We're getting a lot more Nike teams now. For a long time, I have self-interest, trying to protect a certain image that that Nike didn't want people to go here, which is not true. We also have a good relationship we work with Chris Rivers. An opening night last year, we had Team Loaded. The New York Reds, was Adidas back then. Last year, they came over and played some games.
Right.
This year, Game Elite came over, played Georgia Stars, which you'll never see happening in Georgia.
No doubt.
And we had also another Showtime Hoops with Diana Neal here and other teams. But we have I think more of an inclusive thing where that doesn't mean that we're trying to get people to go away from their own subgroups.
Right.
At some point, we have to understand we're part of a bigger group.
Got to be a combination.
Whether you're a team, whether you're a certain religion, whether you're a certain race, whether you're a certain background, whether you come from a certain country, if you're here, you may identify with certain things that are similar to you, but at the same time, you're part of a bigger group. And then a lot of the problems we have, not just in basketball, but in our communities, is because when you don't feel the double connection, there's nothing wrong with being proud that you're Greek or proud that you're black. Barack Obama is both black and white. He should be proud of both. His mom was white, his dad was African. He should be proud of both. People should allow him to be proud of both. That's part of we need to view him as American first.
Right.
And then, when you have that line up, when you put that wall up, when you have that, going back to the Gary Parrish thing, I think it's the same thing, but generalizing stereotyping is not good because it creates an impression every time you come across that somebody. Maybe you had a bad experience with a great guy one time.
Right.
You come across the next great guy, you think it's me, and you do the Chris Rock thing, you beat that ass down. You see the video? So that's part of the problem because, hey, I can't go up there. I can't mess with this guy. And at some point, though, too, is we got to stop worrying about owning these kids. We got to stop more worried about developing them. Ultimately, the parents are going to do what's best. They feel best. If they don't feel best, I come from a approach. I told this to Ryan Silver here, a long time ago. He would get upset. He's a young guy in the block, did a good job with Earl Watson League. He'd get upset with the guy wouldn't go with them or the guy would leave his team. I said, listen, at the end of the day, you can't worry about people that aren't down with you.
That's right.
If they don't want to be down with you, they're lost. You can't worry. Nothing you can do about it. You got to worry about people that want to be down with you.
That's right.
If they're not down with you, you don't want those people. Period.
I'm about to mention that on Twitter tonight. Because we kind of go through the same thing in Houston, and I like competition. None of our teams, they don't ever play each other. Aaron Harrison and I agreed to play each other. Agreed to play each other this year. Right after we came back from South Carolina. I missed it because I had to come out to Vegas for the summer league. But they said it was one of the biggest crowds they've ever seen. And the city was just, they wanted that. They want the competition. They want to see these guys. And we've always argued about, man, why are y'all running? How you gonna say y'all need to play 2 games? You need rest. You got to practice. Come on, let's play. And for ultimate competitors, that's what you want. The kids want it more than anything else.
Yeah.
You know what may be a possible opening here? I thought about the same thing that you just did. Maybe starting from every region, having, this could be held in Pangos leagues, city leagues. We have the Houston Pangos, this, Pangos, and have the teams come in during the week,
Right.
during Tuesday or Wednesday, where they can't go out of town,
Right.
where they're not gonna figure out a way to draw them.
Somebody tried that in Houston. Everybody said, "Well, look, those are our practice days."
But no.
But Dinos, I want to do this for you. I want to throw some names or some questions out for you real quick. I want you to give me like maybe about a 15-second answer or whatever it is. Alonzo Ball versus Jason Kidd.
Similar in some ways, not as similar in others. The kid was more physical. Kid also was a guy who I think was better earlier in high school as a junior. I don't know if you guys remember, but he played for Rich Goldberg, ARC, I believe. And as a junior, I remember back then the information was conveyed by the way about magazine articles and newsletters that he dominated at that time Chris Webber and Glenn Robinson, who were hell of a players. And Glenn Robinson was the #1 pick in the draft, man.
Right.
And Webber might have been 2. Might have been number 2 pick. A grade below.
Okay.
Now, Lonzo had a hell of a year this year. Put up enormous numbers. Now, style of play, though, too, obviously helped amplify those. Because those, in a normal environment, he probably would not have put up those numbers. Now, obviously, the style was suited for what they did. He had played that way for so many years. He had unbelievable chemistry with his brothers, which you can't teach in a year or two. Sometimes you get better chemistry. They had inherent ability to know that like brothers have a different scenario. Only close to that might have been the year Lone Peak. Remember a couple years ago? Lone Peak, Utah was #1 in the country. Lone Peak.
No, I don't remember them.
They were, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago. And that was a group that had a couple of kids that went to BYU.
Okay.
No real pros, but that group apparently had been together since the 3rd grade.
Chemistry.
That same core.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that chemistry, they could beat better talented teams because of the advantage of the chemistry. It kind of made up for their talent disadvantage. So Lonzo Ball, I think wasn't as physical as Jason Kidd, but the passing skills were both remarkable. But they both were, I think, not pure shooters, but could make shots. But there's a lot of similarities. And I think Lonzo's a little bit taller.
Yep.
Best player you've ever seen play in high school.
It's probably LeBron James.
That's it. You have.
LeBron James.
Second best player. Let me get that.
Maybe John Williams.
John
It's going back a little bit. 84. That was a man playing with the boys. Then John was right.
That John Williams played with Cavaliers.
Played with the Clippers, played with the out of LSU.
Okay. John Williams.
So he graduated 84 at Crenshaw.
Yeah.
So he had forget about double team. Long Beach Poly played with McDonald's and 5 other Division I players, including Marlon Wiley was on that team. Marlon Wiley was on a team, a Long Beach Poly team, that had a triple and quadruple team, John Williams, to the point where he would have to bring the ball up just to touch it.
Wow.
At the old LA Sports Arena.
Now, in '84, I'm 5 years old, right? So give me, I guess, how tall was he? What kind of player was he?
He was built like Matthew Johnson.
Okay. So he's about 6'.
Played a little bit like LeBron James, like a Matthew Johnson or LeBron James type. He could do it all.
Wow.
But he gained weight as he got to the NBA. I'm trying to remember what year he retired. I think he had a good career. He actually took LSU to the Final Four his sophomore year. It actually might have been the highest profile guy Dale Brown ever had before Shaq. How he got him out of LA, only God and Chase Manhattan knows.
All right. I'm going to throw names at you now. I got names. You got 15, 20 seconds for names. Son of a girl.
Trailblazer, grassroots icon.
George Rabbit.
George Rowley was a tremendous person, guardian of the game, good person.
Ronnie Flores.
Ronnie's a terrific guy. He might be the historian of the game.
Pat Barrett.
Pat Barrett, that's a little more trickier. Pat Barrett, he's well-intentioned in many ways, but I don't think you realize how he's contributed to a large part to the negative side of entitlement for a lot of these players.
SoCal.
And beyond.
And beyond. Frank Burleson.
Frank is one of the dinosaurs of the game, Hall of Fame basketball writers. Guy who grew up as a journalist, turned scout, perspective, second to none as far as longevity.
Okay. Two more. Last one, and I'll give you one when you end on the conversation. The Pumps.
The Pumps were or are, I think, people that had a good business mind. I think they took it to another level. But I don't think they capitalized or refined it as much as they possibly could as far as moving it from where they had it and have it now to take it to that next level of quality and originality and creativity.
So they were right there. Grassroots basketball. Is it getting better or worse? Where are we headed?
That's the
climax.
That's the big question right there. And I think we're getting worse in some ways. There's potential to get better. I think we've never had a information system or network to make parents and players aware of certain opportunities, and to make their talents amplified and made aware to colleges, NBA scouts, other people, marketing executives. But we have a scenario where people are so chasing the money. I think it's a money scenario where there's so much money noticed at the top that it's almost like a scene from National Geographic Channel where it's the spring and all these fish are trying to swim upstream. And they're all jumping, they're flying all over the place. Not everyone's getting there. They're all like flying all over, banging against each other to get there. And it's almost like they're chasing something worthwhile, but they don't fully, many of them don't fully understand there are other benefits to being involved with what they're doing short of that. Learning life lessons from the game, meeting people in future relationships that could pay off in many ways, getting a free college education that may open a door when you have a degree, whether it's a coach or a job or a field of industry. And I think most people are so focused on the final step, they're overlooking other steps that have values.
Maybe steps. Okay. Is there anything in closing that you'd like to add?
I think we've covered a lot. I'm not sure if you're getting to all this.
Dinos, I tell you what, man, we appreciate you having us. We appreciate you being a part of this on the podcast. As I said before, I love the Fab 48. I mean,
This is my first time ever coming. So when I walked in the gym, I was like,
wow.
See, the one thing from where my position too, I'm always looking for ways to improve. And that's why with Gary, Charles, and Grant, the other two people that I run it with, we always have spirited debates and discussions about certain things and trying to find ways to make things better. Because even if you're sitting on a good thing, you may not have matched your potential. And it's always good not to be comfortable, not to get too satisfied, not to get too worried about what other people are doing. Just try to live up to the standards and your own expectations. Most of the time, your success is going to be determined by what you feel you need to accomplish rather than besting somebody else. It's not about being better than the next guy. It's more about being the best you can be. That's real success because we're all limited some way
Absolutely.
at some level. And there may be other people that might be able, 10 years from now, to be better than LeBron or Michael Jordan. We don't know that. But if you're the best of what you can be, then I think you could be happy with that. Going to the grave.
That's right.
Last thing, for you, go ahead and give out your social media tags, man. You gotta.
Somebody was trying. I'm gonna have to slide in somebody's DM. But I have at Trigonis30 at Twitter. I do have an Instagram, but I'm very, very primitive as far as skill. I would be like a non-offensive player on the Twitter. All I can really do is like what I get tagged on. Snapchat, I don't know what these cats are doing with the Snapchat, but I want nothing to part. Because I don't know how these guys function. Back in our day, we wouldn't be able to get the action we got off the court.
No doubt.
These guys blowing their cover every 2 seconds. Hey, where I come from, we don't blow our cover. We leave no fingerprints. Covers intact. And remember in the 80s, you used to talk about Ronald Reagan wanted to do the Star Wars shield to protect the U.S. from a nuclear bomb from Russia. He wanted to build this shield. I'm thinking, if you're young and single, don't you want to have that shield?
You just put all the information out. You let everybody know what you're doing. But I tell you what, West Coast, stand up.
Yeah, man.
Dinos Triginos is in here.
We had a lot of fun tonight.
Absolutely. This podcast is brought to you by OnePassAway.com. Catch your full game footage. #Film Never Lies.
Everybody should learn something from this, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, or down South.
Hey man, we learned that Dinos was born in the same hospital as Snoop Doggy Dogg.
But shit, look, my nigga. And we out.
Peace.
Thanks.
Hey, what size t-shirt you guys wear?
Man, thank you so much.
What size t-shirt you guys wear? Smart?
Yes.